If you're asking a question about how big the online personal training industry is, you might be actually wondering about whether it's saturated, whether there's still opportunity. And the question is unequivocally yes, and I'll explain why. But I will first answer how big it is. And the truth is, it's hard to say how big it is. There are so many people that unreport their income or misreport their income. There's a lot of people who work under the table in the online personal training industry. There's lots of people who work for cash. So the actual numbers, nobody knows. Anybody who pretends that they have some stats that's in any way accurate is actually wrong. You have no idea. We've done a whole bunch of surveys. We've tried to look into this. We don't know how big the actual industry is. What I will tell you though is we did a really large industry-wide survey during COVID last year, and we do a big personal trainer salary survey every single year. And what we wanted to know here in this specific survey is how many people were doing online training compared to how many people were doing online training before. We wanted to figure out what the growth of the industry was. So here's what we figured out. Before COVID hit, March 2020-ish, right, 39% of online trainers said they did something online before. That doesn't mean that they were doing it full time, but they had some sort of online fitness business before, right? In the middle of COVID, when we presented the results of the survey, which was at the end of 2020, 83% said that they do some of online training. Now, here's the craziest stat, though, was part of this. We asked people also, once COVID ends, what percent of people say that they're going to be primarily in the gym, i.e. they're going to define themselves as their business as primarily in person. 14% say that they'll be primarily in the gym once COVID ends. That is a 75% decline from previous levels. So you might be thinking right now, is the online personal training business saturated with so many more people going into it, so many more people defining themselves as online fitness professionals? And the answer is yes, it's saturated if you don't differentiate yourself. There is almost no opportunity if you sell fat loss, if you sell training for mothers or something like that. The reality of it is it will be very difficult for you to build a business. That said, if you do differentiate yourself, if you know how to set yourself apart in the market and you build your content around that and you build your network around that, there is actually unlimited potential, because with the growth of the online fitness industry, there is more trust in online fitness. There are more customers for online fitness. There's more general acceptance that online fitness works because it's been proven. Now, we've known that it's worked since 2013, right? We've helped 40, 50,000 people add online fitness to their business, but the general populace, well, they haven't quite got it before. Well, they do now, which means there's way more customers, which means the pie is way bigger, which means there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. Now, some of the big companies, yeah, they're going to take a bigger piece of the pie. It doesn't mean that there's still objectively more people available for it. But what you got to do if you're worried about whether the industry is saturated is you got to start really narrow, super narrow. I'm talking like you work with military spouses who have had a C-section who are living on base. Tiny, narrow market. But think about what happens there. You now can build one program, right? Way easier than building a new program for every single person. You can build one program that you can individualize to everybody. You know exactly where to network. You know exactly what language to use. You know exactly what content to produce. And those people, although it's a pretty small market, it's more than big enough for you, and you will be literally the only person in the world who is perfectly suited for that person. That's the key. That's how you get started. Once you start getting people results, well, then referrals start to come in. Then going super narrow becomes less of an issue. But you can't start wide. You got to start really narrow and then wait until you start to burst at the seams. That's the key to getting over this idea of whether the industry is saturated. So how big is the industry? We don't really know. Is it saturated? Yes, if you do a bad job. Absolutely not if you know how to differentiate yourself.